Music by the
You ready, Ian?
Let's go.
Kyle, you ready?
You know it.
Alright. I'm ready too. Let's do this.
We've been working round the clock. We ain't got the time to stop. We've been trying to find a spot just to chill, kinda feel like it gotta be the watch.
So we good?
Yeah.
Sure.
You got my 6, I got your 6. Yeah.
You know I got your 6.
You know I would never leave your side if we caught in the mix. Yeah.
If we caught in the mix.
If you go, I go, that's some real shit. You know I ain't never switch. Yeah.
You know I ain't never switch.
I'm on the front line when it's crunch time, and you know I'm with my clique.
You know I'm with my
Yeah.
clique.
You got my 6, I got your 6.
You know I got
Yeah.
your 6.
You know I got your 6.
What up, what up, what up? This your boy, Chris Jordan.
Yo, it's Ian coming at you.
And I am Kyle, I am King Jones, and you are tuned in to episode 13 of The Watch Booth.
You sure you got that one right this time?
Yeah, I got a pot, Jordan. You were right last
Thank you.
episode.
Thank you.
I looked,
Wow, he gave him your credit.
But I told him I would. I said it. I said I would.
That's
would
not what you
acknowledge
said
it.
in the text.
I 100% said
It's all good. We're not
Hey,
gonna,
hey.
we don't live in the past here.
Anyways, I'd like to welcome Pete Callan. I would like to welcome everyone to our special guest today, Pete Callan. Thank you for joining us today on the Watch Booth.
Thanks,
Thank
guys,
you.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate the invite. And
Yeah.
welcome to my shop.
I would say I also want to give a shout out. He provided this awesome environment that we're in. You guys may not be able to see all the angles. Maybe we get a couple cuts. Yeah, amazing place here. But you know what? Before we dive into where we're at and what you do, Pete, if you don't mind, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Pete Callan. I work with these fine gentlemen at the City of New Haven. I'm assigned to Rescue Company 1, and I also own a fire helmet shop called Ragtop, as you guys can see. I am married to my beautiful wife of 13 years.
Hey, yo.
Nice.
13 years this year, Laura.
Congratulations.
Nice.
13 years, episode
And
13.
we have 2 beautiful boys, Declan and Eamon, that are the sweetest little savages you've ever met.
Nice. As they should be.
Yes,
I'm learning. I
yes.
mean, I had a girl first. The
Right.
boy is holy cow.
It's a different animal, man.
Oh my
different
God.
Animal. Yeah, different animal.
Boys are tough, man.
They're sweet, but
Yeah.
they're just.
Yeah.
I call them the Bash Brothers. You know,
Nice.
call them the Bash Brothers.
I can only imagine what my parents had to deal with me and my brother. So, God bless you.
Yeah, right. So, I'm one of 4 boys. So.
Oh man, so
yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit of how you maybe got on the job. What inspired you to become a firefighter?
So my my mother ran daycare when I was growing up. That was just a form of income that that we provided. My father worked at times 3 jobs. So basically, I just saw him on the weekends at that point because he worked 3 jobs. So my mom ran a daycare, and that was her contribution to the household. Like I said, I was one of 4 boys. So there was a lot going on in our house, as it was anyways. But she did daycare for 2 kids that were actually the grandchildren of Skippy Owens, which is retired assistant chief operations for our job. And Tom, Deputy Chief Neville.
Yep.
That's his son-in-law.
Oh, word.
So kind of just a weird connection, there. So their father would come and pick up the kids, after the daycare day was over, and he'd come in with his, navy blue New Haven Fire Department sweatshirt and all jobbed up, smelling like job, and it was like, I was like, this is pretty cool. My father was a fireman in Vietnam in the Navy, and then, before he met my mother, and after
that's
he
cool.
graduated high school, so that kind of bug was always kind of, was always kind of in me a little bit there from that. We used to spend hours just with my father looking at slides. slides of his time in the Navy, and he's actually on a ship called USS Forrestal, which I then found out much later in life that the USS Forrestal was nicknamed the USS Forest Fire because it was consistently on fire. It had actually had one of the most deadly fires in U.S. Navy history on the aircraft carrier. So,
Holy shit.
And my father did not pursue the fire service after he got out, but that kind of his basis and foundation of what he provided me ended up bringing me to where I am with Ragtop a little bit in a roundabout way. So I was just exposed to that at a very young age. So my mom was like, "All right, let's take him to the firehouses," when he's a kid. So I would go to the firehouse, I go to Hamden, I go to New Haven, stuff like that, and I would go check it out. And New Haven just stuck with me. It just stuck with me from a real young age. I'd go to the Hamden firehouses and be like, "How come your trucks aren't white?" And guys would be like, "Oh, it's the New Haven ones," or whatever. That just stuck with me. And so I went through life just that was it. I wanted to be a fireman.
Right.
Right around high school, I was looking for some structure. I had none. I was in a lot of trouble in high school. A lot of suspensions, a lot of just not listening, things like that. I found a place called the Dunbar Hill Volunteer Firehouse in Hamden. Yep. There's my friend of mine, Matt Perry, who actually went into the Air Force, did 20 years and retired, was like, "I'll join with you. I know the captain there. My mom did catechism for him and stuff like that." Him and I ended up joining together. I was 16, going on 17. I could join as a junior member. And that was it. I got there and I joined as a junior member, and I took Fire One as soon as I turned 18, and that was it, man. I was hooked. It's what I wanted to do. Hamden, the volunteer part of Hamden was very, very active when I joined. So we're going on a lot of calls, a lot of runs, got a good,
good experience.
Some good experience, some good, really good memories. And the guys at Dunbar Hill are just, I still talk to most of them today, and they took a chance on a little punk, you know what I mean? And, really provided, some structure and everything that I needed in my life at the time. So, I'm forever thankful for them with that.
Right.
But I had said the captain and I ended up kind of forming a pretty close bond. He actually owns Hinniger Farm. If you know in Hamden,
yeah.
They have a farm stand up there. We bring our kids there. It's an awesome place for kids and families, stuff like that. And him and I just clicked, and he just was like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with your life? I said, I want to be a fireman. I want to be New Haven fireman. That's what I want. That is my goal. So he goes, look, I know somebody on the job there. I'll talk to him and see what I can do.
Right.
So he talks to this guy, and he goes, look, guy that's, former, engineer volunteer, started there. He's a captain in New Haven, and he was like, yeah, I know who Pete is, but tell him he's got to straighten himself out. He's got to go to the military. Go to the military.
No shit. He told you to go to the military.
Yeah, he goes, go to the military, come back, we'll talk.
No way.
And he goes, so when you get back out of the military, he goes, go find Billy Gould. So, and that Billy was a legend in Hamden. I mean, that in the Hamden Company 8. I mean, he was captain of Squad 2. He just, he was a legend.
Still is, right?
Right. Amongst all of us, is just, that was our benchmark. Billy Gould was our benchmark.
Right.
So I enlisted. I went right into the military right after high school. I went right into the Air Force, and I walked right in the recruiter's office, and I was like, look, I want to be a fireman. He goes, shows me a job description, and he goes, does this sound like what you want to do? And it was literally just like, firefighter, responds to fire and emergencies on a fire apparatus, and blah, 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 blah. So I said, yeah, man, that sounds good to me. He goes, all right, let's, go to MEPS, do your ASVAB, and all that other stuff. He goes, sign here. And so I signed there, and then 3 weeks later, he called me, and he was like, it was the day after Thanksgiving. He calls me, and he goes, hey, you ready to go? He goes, I got a fire spot opened up for you. You can go right now. He goes, you can go the first week of December. So I was like, all right, I'm out. I'm going to go.
Right.
I'm going to go. I'm going to get it done.
Absolutely.
So I left and attended basic training in San Antonio, Texas in December. My arrival date was December 8th, 2003.
Wow. How many years did you do that?
I did a total of 10 years, 4 active duty, and then 6 in the Connecticut Air National Guard.
Wow.
So I went on my journey, went to basic training, left basic training. It was like one of the first times my mother has ever been on a plane. She flew down to San Antonio to see me graduate basic training, and went to Fire Academy. And so in the Air Force, it's kind of a funny story. They give you what they call a dream sheet, and you're getting ready for your assignment. You know, where you're going to go after your like MOS training, your job training, right? Mm-hmm. And you put down I was like 4 bases on the East Coast, 4 bases on the West Coast, and like 4 bases over in Europe. I was like, just let it ride, man. Let it ride. Right. You know, it's like Florida, Colorado, California, Germany, Italy, like, you know, good places, right? Yeah. And so we're in our class is joint service training. So all 5 branches, train there. So we're in a class. It's all, you know, our instructor at the time was this just old salt army dude, just cigar hanging out of his mouth 24/7, just this old nasty guy. Right. And he goes, "All right, guys, everybody's got your assignments." He goes, "I got the assignments right here." He's holding the piece of papers, and you know, he calls my name. He goes, "Callan, you're up." You know, so I come up, I get my paper, I sit down. He calls everybody, and so he goes, "All right, open it up. What do you got?" I said, "Grand Forks, North Dakota."
Oh, wow. Shit!
And I was like. So he just starts laughing. All the instructors just start laughing.
I was just about to say, your requests were like warm place. I don't know if Germany's warm, but it's at least fucking cool.
Germany.
It's Germany. Right.
Right.
Like, it's not North Dakota.
Exactly. So I'm like, Grand Forks, North Dakota. I'm like, where is that? You know, I have no idea. And
let me pull out this map.
He laughs. The other instructors start laughing. He goes in the hallway, calls the other instructors in. He's like, "This idiot got Grand Forks, North Dakota." They pull up weather.com, and it was like -42.
Oh my!
You know, and it was like, "This is what you're going to, dude." And I was like, "Holy shit!"
Like, for that, I would just like keep me
Can I quit?
close to home.
Yeah, like, can I return this? So then there was 12 other guys in my class. Yeah. And as they opened up their paperwork, they all got one of my choices that were on my dream sheet.
Wow. Get out of here.
That is a honest to God truth.
What was it? 12 spots you requested?
I did 4 on the East Coast, 4 on the West Coast,
and then 4
in Europe.
Who is it you upset?
I don't.
You rubbed somebody wrong, bro.
What did you do?
You rubbed somebody really wrong.
But it was just, I'm like, does anybody want to switch? You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll take North Dakota.
Right.
So the real question is, whose pick did you get? Who picked this? Right. Who brought this up?
Right. So North Dakota, if you don't know Grand Forks, North Dakota, it is about about an hour and a half from the Canadian border. Just aside of, it's like 2 hours to maybe Winnipeg. So right up there.
It just sounds cool.
In World War II, that was like a northern defense border base,
right.
Patrol base.
Right.
And so packed it up and flew out to Grand Forks, North Dakota.
What's that like? That's Fargo territory, right?
Yeah, it's an hour and a half north of Fargo. It's an hour and a half.
Because you watched the movie?
That's literally
that
all I know.
That actually wasn't filmed in Fargo.
Right. It was filmed in what?
Minnesota.
Yeah, I was going to say. Okay.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
So I went, did my thing, and got to Grand Forks, North Dakota, and was like, all right, you know, I didn't care. You know, I was just out to just do what I needed to do. And I didn't know it then, but the state bird is a mosquito.
What?
My God.
Dude, it's so bad.
We're not going to even talk about how that's not a bird.
Man.
Mosquitoes aren't birds.
Right, but I didn't stutter.
And they're like the worst thing created on Earth.
They're literally the worst.
There's no purpose.
They transmit disease.
Those things are
And
massive.
it's a nuisance.
They are massive in North Dakota.
Wow.
North Dakota has some of the most beautiful summers I've ever experienced in my life. It's phenomenal out there. The country, the lake, it's beautiful. You know, we'll get to my story here in a second where I met my wife. My wife is actually from East Grand Forks, Minnesota, which is very specifically not Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Okay, so hopefully she doesn't feel bad for us clowning North Dakota.
No, she won't. She's from Minnesota. She's a Minnesota girl. So. So anyways, got there, got assigned to my first supervisor, Staff Sergeant Mike Kane, who was an absolute savage animal. Him and I butted heads like you would not believe.
Right.
But at the same point, he was amazing. He was a fantastic leader. He was a fantastic staff sergeant. He was a fantastic airman, a fantastic person. But I just was still a little punk. And he was determined to make sure that I followed the rules and regulations of the United States Air Force. Years later, I wrote him, found him on Facebook and was like, hey man, look, sorry for being a little dick, but you impacted me and showed me what a good, true leader does with somebody that's not, somebody that's, has a little extra energy in life.
Right.
And I'm very, very thankful that I was assigned to him.
That extra little energy, I feel that because I feel like that's a small guy thing.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We have
I was a lot.
Me and you, we have that. We have that energy.
I was a lot. But so I was assigned there, and then within a matter of months, they said we got to send a deployment out to Iraq. And Europe. I had only been in the Air Force about 5 months, and packed up my bags. Wasn't able to go home, see my family or anything before, and I got sent to Kirkuk, northern Iraq, and I arrived in country the 7th of January 2005.
Wow.
So there. And it was very real as soon as we got there. When you're looking at the military and you're looking at service overseas, you look at the Iraq-Afghanistan war, there's people that stay on base, and there's people that go outside the wire, and I was very much, we were fire protection for the aircraft for the base. We stayed on the base. That was, when landing there, and it was kind of at the height, I was there for the first elections, for the Iraqi people. And so we were very, very exposed to that and very exposed to a lot of other things. And it was, I met two of the best leaders I've ever met my entire life was during that deployment. They were just fantastic people.
Within the service?
Yes, the fire chief there, Gerard Stevenson, was like 6'5", 320 pounds.
Holy
He
crap.
threw around 325 on a bench press like it was
Wow.
Nothing. And he was just a clear, concise, effective leader.
Word.
You knew exactly where he stood. He had his standards. If you didn't meet it, he let you know, and he gave you a chance to meet them.
Right.
And then it was a Tech Sergeant Tim Knight, who was from Andrews Air Force Base, Maryland. And so I kind of had a little different experience when I was deployed. I was deployed as a one-stripe airman. I was an E2. I was nothing. I was peanuts.
Right.
When I got there, I'm like, oh man, am I going to get assigned to an engine? Am I going to get assigned to an aircraft crash truck? Like, they're like, Airman Callan, you're assigned to fire prevention. And I was like, what?
What is that?
Isn't that
Fire marshal.
Is that like fire
Fire marshal
suppression?
office.
God? Oh,
I feel your
no.
pain.
And I was like,
Oh,
what?
Pain.
Fire prevention.
There's
You
there's
love
a,
it, right?
there's a particular viewer of ours that's a fire marshal, but like that's probably watching this and be like, hey, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, right. So I was like, man, I'm not in the fight. I'm not doing the job, But it ended up being a very good experience for me. Ended up giving me some tools of dealing with conflict, because there were some people that were not that was typically assigned to a staff sergeant. That position that I was in was assigned to a non-commissioned officer, and there were some people that were very unhappy about that. And Sergeant Knight and I, had a lot of conversations about dealing with that, how to properly deal with conflict when you're making a lot of forward progress.
Is that like to compare like lieutenant from our job?
Yeah, lieutenant would probably be the first line. The first line staff sergeant would be comparable to lieutenant. The rank structure is a little bit different.
Right.
Staff sergeant would be like a lieutenant. Tech sergeant would be a captain. But then master sergeant would be like an assistant chief or a battalion chief or a deputy chief. And then senior master sergeant would be a chief, or an assistant. Now chief, and then you have chief master sergeant.
Right.
I've been out for quite a while, so I'm trying to remember. But if you know Bill Riggett, Lieutenant Bill Riggett,
Yep.
He's actually an assistant chief assigned to operations for the Connecticut National Guard. And he just actually just returned with Connecticut.
I was going to say, shout out to
Yep,
him. He
yep.
just returned after doing a tour.
Yep.
Welcome
he was,
back.
He was assigned as the operations chief up there.
So let me ask him, maybe you can give a little bit of insight that maybe he was experiencing, or at least what you experienced. How does fire service compare in the service compared to what we do here in New Haven? I mean, obviously you're dealing with aircraft, so I get the differences.
Yeah, you're dealing with aircraft, so that's a different animal. It's a totally different animal. Very, very low frequency of incidents. But that's kind of one of those times where it's low frequency, high risk. So you really need to be on your game because there's not a lot happening.
Right.
You're dealing with aircraft that have munitions strapped to them, things like that. There's a ton of variables that you need to be aware of outside of just the regular that it's an aircraft. So there's that aspect of it, and then they also do structural firefighting. The military fire prevention program is fantastic. I mean, all the buildings are generally new construction. They're very well kept. The fire prevention program is great. So there's a ton of fire safety things going on, and so there's just a very low frequency of actual structure fires. So it's a little bit different. But you still, are expected to respond and put out fires, as needed. So that's very similar.
Right. So here we go, the Pete Callan, reformed, mature Pete Callan, right? How do we circle back to Connecticut, New Haven?
Okay, so after my 4 years, I was like, I'm moving back. I'm done. I'm getting out. It's my ETS is coming up. I'm done on active duty. I'm getting out. I'm done. I had met my wife
already.
Yep. So I had like 3 months left in, and I met my wife, but I was on terminal leave, and so I was working in nightclubs, managing bars and stuff like that. And so I was like, let me stick around for a little bit and see what this turns into. She's
Now,
pretty cool.
This was nightlife in
She's all right?
North Dakota.
Huge college town though, so it was very awesome nightlife. Yep.
Cool, because I was just about to shit up.
Yeah, no. Actually, Grand Forks,
Always
North Dakota.
looking for the shot.
Long story short, Grand Forks, North Dakota, being one of the best experiences of my life. The guys there were fantastic. The firemen I worked with were incredible. Really provide an excellent basis for development of.
Wait, you said college town, right? Isn't that where North Dakota State University?
Yes. North Dakota, yeah, University
the
of North
Bison?
Dakota.
Is it?
No. University of North Dakota. Used to be the Fighting Sioux. They changed the name. It's the Fighting Hawks now.
Fighting Hawks.
Big college. Pretty much, their entire college hockey team is drafted already. But when they go play for North Dakota, I mean they're upper level, NHL level college hockey.
Right.
So it was a good time.
Right.
So I was doing that, and so I stuck around, and then I got a job offer to work with the federal government, but was assigned to the state of Connecticut as a fire investigator inspector for the state of Connecticut Military Department. So yeah, just kind of like a subcontract thing, whatever. But the pay was great. I said, all right, I got to make my move. I'd known my wife maybe like a few months at this time, and I was like, look, I'm moving back to Connecticut. I'm not going to do a long distance thing, so do you want to come?
I'd like you to come with me.
How much time did you know your wife before you were like
3 months?
You dropped the big 3 months, and you're like,
yeah.
When you know, you know, right?
You know, baby.
When you know, you know.
3 months, and then June this year it'll be 13 years.
Look at that.
Shout out to you guys. That's 3
about
months.
3 months.
When
assuming
you
she
know,
left-
you know.
I'm assuming she left her family
Right, yeah, her whole entire family's there.
to go.
Oh boy, you put that voodoo on it.
It's that Callan magic.
I was supposed to say that. I was supposed to say that.
It's my dashing personality.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what that was.
Listen, when you know, you know. You just when things click, they click.
Right.
So I asked her to move back with me, and so I moved back ahead of time, kind of got things settled, and then her family came out, just kind of checked things out, make sure I wasn't some psychopath.
No, baby. Let's make sure he's okay.
Yeah, right. You've known him how long? What?
I'm not so sure I like this idea.
Right. So, anyways, yeah. And then in February of 2008, she moved out. So I missed the New Haven Fire Department. I missed the 2008 test, the one where a lot of guys that we know.
I think that's
the 2007 test, I believe, because I was still over in the Middle East.
That's a smaller class that came in, right?
Yeah.
I think the class right before
Chief
ours.
McCarthy, Captain Happ.
54. That was my uncle.
Eddie Taylor, Mike Milano.
So you'd have
Right.
15 years on
right
now.
So I was trying to apply for it. I was over in the Middle East. The city was just like, look, we're not having
Yeah, we're not doing that.
You're not doing it.
You're not even in the country.
No respect, man.
You're not even in the
man's
country.
fighting
Right, right.
My man's fighting for
Go
our
on and
country.
keep us safe, but don't apply here, pal.
Jeez.
So I missed that test, and I missed the 2002 test, or the class 2002, because I was getting ready to go in the Air Force.
Right.
So I missed those two tests, and then got back, and then we were kind of in that position where we had to wait because we were waiting for a contract. So I took a job with the Connecticut Air National Guard Fire Department.
Yep.
Joined back in the service. Did 6 years with those guys, with Bill Riggett,
Yep.
and Eric Riggett, and
Yep.
all those guys up there. So they were. So I was with them for about 6 years, and then that 2014 test came up, or the 2012 test. We took a 2012 or 2013.
I couldn't. No.
14.
Well, we got hired in 14.
No, we
tested, I think, in
But it was in 12, I think.
Yeah, 2012.
Because it was a long
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
A long time we had to wait.
And so, so basically when I called back, when I got back from, I called Billy. I was like, hey, I'm back, Bill, And he goes, look, you just got to wait for a test. You got to wait for a test, and you got to study. You got to put the work in. You got to put, I can't, you got to do the work.
Yeah.
So I studied and studied and studied, and I hired tutors. I was never good in books. So I hired tutors to kind of coach me through how to take that test. I, worked with oral interview coaches, things like that. And I just, at that point, I was a lieutenant at the Air National Guard. I was basically next up for captain. I was going to be making serious money. I had 6 years in, state pension, tier 2 employee. So I was like,
Had
look,
the dream, though.
Yeah.
this is the year. Like, my wife was like, I want to have a family. I want to start going. Like, you got to pick. And it was down to, I just wanted to be busier. My goal was New Haven, but you know how hard that was. We tested with 6,000 guys.
Right.
So
I was going to ask you, was New Haven the only city you tested
I
for?
tested everywhere.
You tested
So
everywhere?
I knew to get good at testing, you just needed to test.
Right. You just need to get that experience.
And I wanted to work somewhere busier. I wanted to go on calls. I wanted to go to fires. I wanted to go to calls.
But New Haven's where it's at, so you joined the
Right.
NFL
Well, that was
draft.
right. That was my dream. New Haven was my dream. So it came down to Meriden, Greenwich, and New Haven.
Yeah.
They all tested kind of in the same year. My wife was like,
Wow,
this
what
is
different cities? Meriden,
Right.
Greenwich, and New Haven.
Wow.
And I was like, and I would have been content with, any of the jobs, but
Right.
my dream was New Haven. And she was just like, this is it. She was like, if you don't get on one of these three, you're staying at the Air Guard, you're getting
Right.
that captain's badge. And we were having fun.
Get me
It was a
pregnant,
good job.
goddammit.
Great
Said, I
guys.
can't wait anymore.
Great guys, and great place, to work. And I still talk to a lot of those guys today, and they're all exceptional people. So but luckily, I
Landed the dream job
and
in
the
New
dream
Haven,
job.
baby.
New Haven called.
So when we linked up, you were working there, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you came to the Dunbar Hill Volunteer?
And we were, yeah. So me
That
and
was
Jess,
prior. So when Connecticut job was a union job, so once I got that job, I left the Dunbar Hill. So right prior to me getting hired there, I think it was that year window.
yeah, I don't even
I
think you were
wasn't
there
hired,
when
yeah.
we
you
when
first came
we met up that time. I don't think.
But I remember
were,
you came in. You're like, my name's Jordan. My uncle works in New Haven. I'm gonna get on the job. And I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Big balls on this guy.
Well, my name's Pete Callan. I don't know anybody.
Wait. This was after the test?
No, it
came
was
out?
before the test.
no, this
Before the
was
test.
this.
So
was,
me-
you just,
I've known
you're
actually.
calling your shot. You're just
No, so
pointing to the.
I was doing my Babe
Yes,
Ruth.
yes.
So me and Jesse, we were in the same. So we went to our
Jesse
EMT
Alderson.
cycle. Yeah, Alderson, Waldensack,
Wallensack, whatever.
yeah, whatever you want to call him. Our
Alderson, when I know him.
we had the EMT cycle. It was the same.
Wait,
So-
Jesse tested in our test?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, in ours in 20.
Yeah, he
2012?
tested. He tested.
Oh no shit.
Oh,
He
okay.
tested. And then he was just so determined. He went and became a paramedic.
Got it.
He said,
Yeah.
Right.
"I'm getting on.
Some way.
You're gonna give you
One
gonna-
way or another.
Oh yeah. You're
But
stuck.
so we were in the same EMT cycle, but I was on nights and he was on days.
Right.
So we always were, crossing paths or whatever. So we got cool. I knew him from outside the job. He was big into the music scene just like me.
Right. Yeah.
And so he was like, yo, he was like, yeah, I know. I don't know if he knew you or he knew somebody who linked him up with you, but he was like, I'm going by this volunteer fire. We both lived in Hamden at the time. He was like, yo, we should become volunteers because we were already EMTs. And I was like, I don't know. I had 3 kids. So I was like, I'll go give it a shot. He's like,
Yeah,
listen, they give you the fire. He's like, if you go through there, you get your fire 1, you get your fire 2, you get all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we went over, we met, and you're telling us all the stuff that we got to do. And I'm like, in my head, I'm just like, I ain't got the time to do all this volunteer shit. I was like, man, I got too many kids and motherfuckers just running around and shit. But I do remember saying to you, I was like, no, I'm gonna get on.
Yeah.
And it just was,
That was what, at least 15 years ago. So I'm trying to date it. So yeah, I mean that was about 14 years ago.
Yo, Jordan, I was ready to clown you for becoming a volley because you were talking junk, not talking junk about volleys, but
Talking junk about volleys, though.
Listen, I got to the
Back me up
point.
on it, right?
I
Can't knock the roots, man. You can't knock the volleys.
I didn't
Yeah.
listen.
Knock the roots.
I didn't. Ultimately, I didn't become a volley because I didn't have the time. But if I had to go that route, I was gonna go that route.
Listen, that's a different breed. First of all, I know I've talked my shit.
Listen, volunteers.
above spark volleys, but I gotta give them credit to do the shit that we do
Voluntarily? Yeah.
I mean, there's some that you get I think a stipend,
Yeah, but
you get
it's-
training
yeah,
involved,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that does not.
Where I live, the stipend is $100 a year tax break up until 10 years.
Bruh.
So
Yeah,
your max out tax break is $1,000 a year.
No, $1,000 for 10 years.
I'm saying, after 10 years, you get $1,000 tax break a year.
Sweet.
No, never.
Oh,
I could never. And I thought about it. 'Cause
What a deal.
I live.
I mean, if you look at the foundational aspects of volunteer firefighting, and everything was community based, so
Right.
you had to take care
Right.
of, protect your community, and
Right.
and so now we as a society, as we have changed, there's a lot more requirements for firefighting, which makes it hard.
Right.
There's a lot more people that are living in towns and communities that just aren't as involved because they're just not as involved. And
Right.
there's
Or just
kids
not
and there's
interested,
sports
or-
and
right.
there's all these different distractions when 80 years ago, 100 years ago, I mean, your life consisted of what was going on in the town.
Well, that was like everything back then, right?
Right.
It's they had the local militia, which was guys from the city, the town that got together. Your fire department, your police department, everything was serviced by the people that inhabited it. So that obviously volunteers came.
They worked
from
in
that
town too.
idea.
They didn't
Which
work,
makes
They
sense.
didn't work outside of the town.
Right,
They
like
worked
you lived
in the
where you
town.
worked.
You lived where you worked.
Right. The
Right.
idea
That was
was
yes.
stemmed from that.
Right.
And then we eventually evolved
So
to
now
volunteer, then to career.
now you're in this cycle of all right, if we go career, then our taxes are going to go up.
Yeah.
Okay, or do we offer incentives like tax breaks and
Right.
things like that?
So I
that's
guess-
kind of where you get that from.
I always wonder, and I mean, if you're trying to build experience, right, volunteering is a great avenue.
Yeah,
But I always think, especially the things that we do, man,
I feel like
what would it take for you to volunteer your free time? Granted, we're taking everything into account where you're getting training and you are getting a stipend or you're getting a tax break somewhere, but like with all that involved, right, compared to what we get as career, like what would it take for you to be like, I'm not gonna work at McDonald's, I'm gonna volunteer my time to become a volunteer firefighter, which doesn't maybe provide that much, but it gives me experience. And then if you have obviously a passion for it, which I think most volunteers do, it
That's
allows
the
me
difference
to
maker.
give
It has
back
to be that.
to the community.
100%.
It's getting experience, but it's also your sense of protecting your community
Yeah.
in which you live, and that's
And if you think
volunteers
about
are
it,
going to look at that and they're going to say, look, even career guys, career guys, like, I care about the city of New Haven. That's where I grew up.
Right.
I grew up in Hampton,
Right.
but I spent a lot of time in New Haven. And
Right.
that was my area. That was where I kind of grew up. So I care about that. I have a vested interest in that.
Right.
I have a vested. I think by nature, for all of us, we care about protecting citizens. And we care about our community. And I think it's not really any different. If you're a career or you're a volunteer, career you get a paycheck, but your job is the same. It's just different structure.
I mean, if you think about it, there's the, and God forgive me, but there's the guy, I don't know his name, that passed this year, right, in Berlin.
Yeah, right.
He was a volunteer.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
So the risk is still the risk is still the same.
the risk is no different.
I think that's why I brought that up, is because there's
risk
there's
is
a
no
high
different.
risk still
It's-
involved.
It's your sense of community.
volunteer.
It's your sense of community. It's a sense of caring about your community that surrounds you.
Right. So I think the point I was trying to get to is I give as much shit as I give the volunteering community, I give you guys a lot of credit, because to do what we do and risk your lives
For free.
for a fraction of what we
Right, yeah.
what we get, or a lot of career gets. I mean, hats off to you guys for really protecting your communities and cities.
You see what you bring out of people?
What?
You bring the best out of them.
Stop.
Yo,
at
look at
you.
that. 'Cause I was.
Look at you.
Was
You
it
think we could have got him to do that?
Nope. Not a
five
chance.
to 8 episodes? I was ragging
Not a
on that
chance.
whole community.
Not a chance.
And I still might hold it against them, because they're wild. Like, if I was a volunteer, I'd probably be like wild.
Well, I mean,
transitional or defensive. You know what I mean? Like, no
technically-
shade to anyone. but-
Technically, what you get out of the academy, you're like just a step above.
How about this?
volunteer.
How about this? Right. So, obviously we're a career. I live in East Haven. And if it wasn't for the fact that they're like a career and volley department, I think I'd be volunteering in my own town. I think I would. And it's for the simple fact that, like, every time I hear sirens or something go by me,
The sparking
I
wakes
live
up.
I live behind the main headquarters.
Well, your wife did say you were a spark.
I just be thinking.
She did.
I just be thinking. I'm like, what is he?
He's a
do?
low-key
He's
spark.
a low key buff. That's
Yo,
what.
low key.
I mean, the sirens are a lot of
Buff.
shit
He's a
in
quiet
my
buff.
house, right? So
Quiet.
I just
He
be
wants
I'd be
a
laying in bed.
radio.
Stop.
I bet he does.
24.
So bad.
Stop.
So bad.
Stop. I've never looked into a price of a radio. So, but I'd be laying in bed.
He's
and I'd
got
be like,
technology on lock.
No,
Yeah.
Never looked
No.
into the price of a
No.
radio. That's pretty specific. I think he has.
Yeah, he
I
absolutely.
don't even know what to look up. Like, I
He
swear.
wouldn't-
I
Price
swear
of
to
a
God.
radio.
So I'm saying though,
In his basement, he's got the ham radio set up. He's got the microphone. He's got
Listen, you know he's a big tech guy. He's a Tesla
He
guy.
is.
He doesn't have a
He has the
radio.
digital radio.
Right.
He's never
He has the
looked up.
new-
He's
the
never
new-
looked up the price of a radio. He's trying to cover it because he's got the app on his phone. So
Exactly.
he just tunes it up.
I do have the app on my phone.
Bam.
I do.
And
But
just like that, we
but
figured
we
it out.
all know.
Guilty.
You can't.
And I'm
out-
talking
you-
to the
you-
guy.
You can't out buff me.
No, I'm
Yeah,
saying
you
I'm
can't
talking to the
out-buff
real
me.
buff,
All right.
right? The app sucks. It's not reliable. If you really want to like be in tune with what's going on, it's not reliable.
It's behind.
It's behind.
That's
It's sometimes
you gotta
it could be
boost,
jumped
you gotta
on.
boost the connection in your basement. that
Look,
you
he's
have
giving them
with
tips.
the ham radio
God.
because
I'm
that's
also
how,
going to put aluminum
like, you
foil
put a
on
little
my head.
scanner. You put a little scanner in your basement.
I'm gonna make
and
you an
plug it
aluminum
into your
foil hat.
computer, and that's how they get
I'm
those feeds.
going to put aluminum foil on my head so I can get the best
He's got it
service
all set
available.
up.
Wow.
He's got it running off his
Well,
car. He's got all that.
that feed for New Haven used to actually run right out of my shop.
No way.
Wow.
Wow.
I ran out of my house for a little while, and then it ran out of my shop.
Listen, I'm also boosted, so my service should be even better at that point, right?
We're not gonna get into that. So you got on New Haven. You took the test. You got on New
Yep,
Haven.
I New Haven took
You
the
came
test,
in
got
class
it.
57,
57,
right?
yep.
Wait, so
Okay,
you
that's the
spoke
first
about the
class.
first moment that you met Pete.
This is where I'm going. This
Pedro.
is where I'm going with
Right.
it.
Do you remember the first time we met?
I do. So my wife works at Horowitz Career Apparel and Uniforms,
Yeah.
State in Connecticut, who does the uniforms. She'd started just about a year before we started going through the academy, and we got the call for uniforms. Go to Horowitz, get your red cap pants and your whatever else you needed, your boots and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
She goes, oh, this kid came in today, said his father's on a job, and he's on a job, he's in the next class, and he gave me his number, said give him a call. So I was like, all right, called and was like, hey man, let's go grab lunch.
Yeah.
Before the start of the academy. So me and Eric Riggett actually met you for lunch
Yep.
down at what's the name of that place?
Temple Grove.
Yeah, Temple Grill. There you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
you guys
Temple
are
Grill.
fancy. Look at
Yeah.
you.
So
I don't know if it was Temple Grove back then, but it was there.
yeah, no, it was Temple Grill.
Yeah,
it was.
it was?
It was Temple Grill. So kind of a low key story nobody really knows is so the name Cordero stuck in my head for a very long time, and I'm like, I know that name. Like I know that name. And then I got on the job and I met now retired Chief Cordero. And I'm like, man,
Who's that guy?
I know you.
I know.
And he's like,
I know.
you do? I'm like, yes. I was like, I know you. When I took my EMT through Sponsor Hospital back in 2003, you did your ride time at 11s.
Okay.
And so I showed up at Engine 11 on a Saturday night and
Steak night.
met a fellow the same height as me. A little bit shorter.
I think I know where you're going.
And he took care of my steak for the night. He just sat in the watch booth with me all night, talked to me about the job, why I wanted to be a New Haven fireman, why I want to get on. And then a little while later, it was getting close to like 11 o'clock, like I had to go.
Yeah.
And he comes and he goes, hey, look, dude, I talked to the captain. If you want to stay, I got bed sheets and a bed for you. You can jump on Engine 11 for the rest of the night. You got to be out at 6 o'clock in the morning. Nobody can know you stayed. So I was like, are you serious? Yeah, I'll stay, man.
Fucking yeah.
So I rode Engine 11 that night. And that ended up actually being your father.
So my father was the person you spoke to in the.
He was the one that took care of my steak dinner that night.
Wow.
They had filet mignon. And I rode the unit till 11 o'clock. And then he is the one that was like, hey, man, you want to ride?
Wait, your father was.
This is amazing
Because nobody does steak.
I'm gonna
night
challenge
like
my
11.
dad because I don't know if he watches every episode consistently. So I'll challenge him here and be like, man, I didn't think you were that cool.
And then I shipped off.
I didn't think you were that cool of a person to like hang it tight with an outsider.
It just stuck. Like that just stuck with me. I was like, that was cool. I mean, that was a huge impact. And like right after that, I was like, all right, man, I got to get on the job. And then when I got back from the military, I called Billy and was like,
And then you linked
back.
up with
And
his
he
son.
was like,
Look at that.
he was
Full
like,
circle.
all right. He's like, come down to, he was the captain of Squad 2 at the time. And he was like, come down to Squad 2, and, I was that guy that showed up on my camera and chased him to fires and hung out and, had dinner with them and like did that whole like buff picture ride along thing. And, just had an awesome time with those guys. It was Engine 9, Squad 2, and Division 1.
Right.
And so me and Billy just became super, super tight, just super tight, talked all the time. I'd come down to visit him all the time, hang out, if I took photos of jobs or whatever, like I'd drop them off, I'd get the pictures to the guys, stuff like I just did it just for fun,
Right.
Just for my own enjoyment, just to be around it, just to understand what firefighting in New Haven was like, because it was so different from what I was used to from the military.
Right. So I remember when we made the date and the time and date to link up over at Temple Grill. I told my dad, I was like, yeah, this guy Pete Callan reached out to me. I'm gonna meet this other guy. He's like, Pete Callan, that sounds really familiar. He says, I think there was some kid that like came around the firehouse and hung out.
I was that nerd, man. I was that nerd that the guys are like, fucking buffs here.
So
this loser's here. He's got nothing else better to do.
I don't
than
remember
hang out at a
if
firehouse.
you told me this story or someone fabricated this story, but was there a time that you slept at? I mean, obviously you mentioned sleeping at 11.
No, yeah, no.
Slept on top of an engine. Is that just like?
No, that's a total fabrication.
That's firehouse magic.
No, I think that's just me. Like, what's that fucking movie?
I slept on a fire engine when I was done with a volunteer.
Backdraft?
Yeah, where they were bumping on top of the engine.
And it went out on a call?
No.
But you stayed at 11s that night.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
See, that's
in 2003, and then after that, I would just come and hang out until it became 9 o'clock, and then I'd leave. I'd go
right.
go
So I remember like this meeting that we had, and I didn't know what to expect. So I wasn't really a part of the community then. So I had taken the opportunity because it came up. I wanted to be a civil servant. I thought I was going to be a police officer at first. Ended up testing for a fire department in New Haven. I went with it. And then, come along. You hitting me up, and it was me, you, and Eric. And, like, I remember sitting at that table, and I'm thinking to myself, right? And obviously, I'm super young. I want to say you guys are older than me. So I was just thinking to myself, what the fuck am I getting into? These guys have experience. have drive, motivation. Not that I didn't have drive and motivation, but like I feel like I was like, damn, I'm not like they're in a different like stratosphere than I am. I was like, they they have all this experience, credentials, all this interest, and I'm like,
I think that's
my dad was on the job, and I wanted to join.
I think that's the thing about New Haven is, it's the great equalizer.
Yeah.
When you get on a job in New Haven, it strips you down to the very basics of yourself. No matter where you come from, what experience you have, what experience you don't have. When you walk into the New Haven Fire Academy on day one, you're there to be a New Haven fireman,
right?
Not to be anything else.
And you do it New Haven's way.
You do it New Haven's way,
right?
And I think that's as we have a lot of years left on the job. I think that's one of the things that we, as firefighters in the fire department need to hold on to. Like, we need to do things the New Haven way. We need to look back at the way things have been done in New Haven for the last, since 1862, and say we need to hold on to these traditions. So many traditions have been lost because we've lost so much experience.
Right.
We need to. If you look at what James Kiley does, like,
posting
that
all the
guy
historical
is,
stuff. Yeah.
Like, my hat goes off to him. Like, I am so envious of what he does with his dedication to preserving the history of the New Haven Fire Department.
Yeah.
Like, I can't give him enough accolades because he does it, and he does it to preserve the history of the New Haven Fire Department.
Right.
And we need to focus on that. We need to focus on where we came from.
That's a good point, because I had a veteran tell me, who's just about one step out the door, and he told me, he said, "Hey, it's your classes that got on like during your time." He said, "All this stuff that you learned while we were on, and we had all these other veterans that are on that are now gone." He said, "All the things that you learned and that we implemented as tradition, right? Like, or how we normally do things." He says, "Now you're responsible for making sure that those things are carried over to the newer generation that keeps coming in, like Kyle and the new generation that's like in the class now." And I never thought about. I mean, obviously, like, I'm a lieutenant and I have 8 years on, which is insane to think about. But like, I always forget to know that we have a lot of time on, or like we're up there as far as seniority, even though we have no like time on.
Compared to seniority, we have a lot of time on the job, seniority wise, numbers wise. But at the same point, we don't, and we have a lot of time left.
Well, right.
There's going to be a very long period of time on our job where there's just not a lot of movement.
Right.
It's going to be very stagnant with the way we hired.
But I want to say some of the guys in our class are starting to hit that upper third part of the department where like we're and we are the senior class.
Like, we have, if you look at the guys that are, guys and girls that are ahead of us, and in the positions that they're in now, the captains, the battalion chiefs, the deputy chiefs, senior lieutenants, things like that. They're fantastic, and we just need to just hold on to what they're saying and what they're doing. We need to focus on them.
Right.
We need to focus on the examples that they're giving us.
Right.
And to pay attention to that. I think that's so crucial.
But I'll take it deeper. The guys like us who had those really veteran guys.
Right.
Yeah.
We also got to pay attention to what was taught to us by those guys.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because
absolutely.
Us three specifically, like you mentioned, Chief Gould, Billy Gould. I don't think you ever met him, right? He was retired by the time you got on. That, like, we consider Chief Gould as like a huge part of our, like, at least a huge part of my tenure here.
About him in the academy.
Yeah, I mean, like,
if everyone on the job could love the job a third of what he did,
we'll
our
probably
job
be better
would
off.
be incredible.
Yeah,
our job would be incredible.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of guys in a job that do. That do.
Listen, I
think a lot of guys in the right places where we involve ourselves that have that level of energy and love.
Right. When
it's other areas that are more challenging that we have to like just unite everyone.
I sat with somebody from your class and I think the class right below, and I was talking to them, and I was telling them they have a very seasoned officer on their shift, and I was like, listen to that guy.
Yeah.
You know, you follow that guy. You pay attention. And I was saying, you know, I was blessed to have it because it's in I've talked about this before, but it's weird because I'm the senior guy on my shift. Outside of my captain, I'm the second most veteran guy.
Wow.
Right? And I just started 8. So I said, you know, if I was looking at my shift, if I didn't come from the shift that I came from, I would look at my shift and I would go, we are fucked. Right? I would look at my shift and I go,
Well, I think
shit.
Right. If you took like
I
an
think-
average time.
But I came under guys like Ray DeJesus, Bobby Ortiz, you know what I mean?
Right.
Let me ask you this.
Scotty and Damien.
You work on the rescue on the first division, right?
Yep.
Where do you rank? I'm third on my shift. It's now Cat Perez, Driz, and me.
Yeah,
As far as
now,
seniority.
Yeah, with the recent transfer list, that puts me 3.
3.
Yeah.
That's nuts. That's
But
I mean, that's nuts.
here's the thing: we have to look at it and say, look, we don't have a ton of time on the job.
Right.
We really don't. You know, at 12 years, a lot of guys that are, you know, higher level officers now, we're still the ones
The
doing
rookies.
the dishes and doing the rookies.
They were the rookies.
Okay.
Yeah.
We still have a lot of time to go on the job, but we have fantastic examples in front of us that we can look at and we can learn from, and we can set ourselves
Yeah,
up for
that
success.
that was my point.
And that's just where we are. I didn't, you know, being a lieutenant at 8 years is unheard of. You
Right.
know, being a guy assigned to a rescue company, you know, a heavy rescue company is unheard of with 8 years. I
Right.
mean, but we're in the position
Being a
that we're in.
Tillerman.
You know, yeah, being a
Tiller-
Tillerman with
that's-
8 years on.
Tillerman,
you know,
yeah.
we are in those
young
positions
department.
not because we asked. It's just how the cards fell.
Right.
And it's our job to look at the history and the traditions of the New Haven Fire
Right.
Department. Look at those that are leading us ahead of where we are now. Look at those guys that came before us. Look at the very brief time we got to work with really senior, old school
Really,
quality
really.
guys. And just take it. The job is always going to change.
Right.
Every time there's a new hiring class, the job is always going to change.
Listen.
It's our job to just look at it and say, all right, these are the cards that we're dealt with.
Right.
Let's honor the city of New Haven every single day that we come to work, and we come in and we do our job.
Well, and you know, to piggyback off that, you know, maybe some people are listening to this like, God damn, they got 8 years. 8 years, you know.
A lot of bigger
Tiller.
cities are starting to see the same thing. There was
Right.
mass hiring,
But
mass
even
retirements.
even that with that said, you know what I mean? I'm not the least senior lieutenant. There are
right.
you know, there are lieutenants right now that have less time.
Yep.
There are guys on the rescue with less time. There are tillers with less time. So that's just how we're just developing.
Right.
We're developing into a younger department
Right.
just by sheer number.
Like I said, I think that the benefit for guys like us is that we came up with veteran guys, you know?
Right.
I had a Ray DeJesus was, when I came out, mostly everybody you talk to would say that's the best pump driver in the city.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I watched this guy, we were at 11s, you know, and he had just got transferred from 6s. I watched this guy every call that 6s got. I mean, every call that 6s got. And he would jump out of wherever he was at, and he would be like, Dickerman, 32 Dickerman Street. That's the yellow house on the left. The hydrant is three houses down from the purple house.
Jeez.
And I would be like,
Talk about knowing your district.
I'd be like, this guy is crazy.
He knew everything from
Oh, yeah,
hydrants
yeah.
to houses. He knew everything.
And this is who taught me to be a pump driver, right? When I was driving the pump. And he was, so I was able to get that knowledge and that wisdom. So, you know, when I see my guys, I say the same thing.
Yep.
It's like,
So
I'm the senior guy. It's weird. I know you guys are looking at me and it's weird, but I'm going to teach you what these guys taught me.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to teach you, hopefully, I'm going to teach you the right way to do things. I'm going to teach you the New Haven way to do things, you know, and we can keep this tradition
Sure.
going.
And so, you know, I used to go ride at 9s and Squad 2 and, you know, with Billy on Division 1. And so we went through the academy. We did our thing. You know, we went everything. We went through the academy.
Yeah.
57, the forgotten class.
What an interesting academy we had.
Forgotten class.
Yeah.
That'll go down in private history books of what that was.
Our class will go in down in history.
The instructors, they were like,
By the way, you had like 2.5 instructors, right?
yeah, it's just about.
Doing yeah,
just
that's not fair.
on a good day.
That was a shot at our old captain.
The department at that point was just so strapped at that point that that they just needed to get us out. They needed to get us trained. They needed to get us out.
Oh, what was it? 130, like 130 vacancies.
Yeah,
When they hired our
we didn't even
classes?
make a dent in the overtime when we got
No.
out. We didn't even make a dent.
No, I remember they first tried to tell us that we were the overtime killers.
And then they told us.
And we get on. Yeah, we got on. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
And then you got on and they said the same thing, right?
And nothing happened.
Right at passion. It's just,
Nothing happened.
Yeah, right.
It's every academy.
Marcarelli came to our class and he said, "Yeah, you guys aren't going to be able to work overtime for 6 months. We talked about it. Can't do it." Literally, our first trick in the firehouse. Gould called and was like, "Hey, kid, you want to work overtime?" I was like, "I can't do it for 6 months." He said, "The fuck am I calling you for then? You want to work overtime or no?" I was like, "Shit."
Yeah.
Oh,
So
Some of our guys a couple of our guys worked their first shift
Was
on an overtime shift.
Yeah.
Wow.
so
Nuts.
So you know the
Yes.
standard response in the academy was, where you want to go? Oh, sixes, nines, 10s, or 11s.
Yeah.
You know, that was your standard response. Is where sixes, nines, 10s, or 11s. I'll be happy anywhere I go.
Yeah. Right.
So the instructors
After
the
that.
day we were graduating were like, "Oh, Pete, I heard you're going to nines,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Nines?" I'm like, "Holy shit," you know. So we graduated, get my letter, and it's Engine 9 Division 1, and then there's there's Billy there, and I'm like, talk about full circle. You know what I mean? Like 6 months ago, before the academy, I was just having dinner with you guys, and now I'm literally going to work on your shift.
Right. Like now I'm part of the life.
Now I'm going. It was Chick Craniac was there, Richie Green, Mike Mulatto, Eddie Taylor. I was just.
So
I was
you
very,
got
very
to work
lucky.
with Chick before he
Oh yeah,
he got
For a
moved.
few, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Before he got moved. Yep. And it was just weird to go from hanging out with those guys, having dinner.
Yeah.
Jumping on the back of a piece, going for a run, things like that, and then going to work with them. And it was surreal. And then the shift got split up, it got changed. My first officer was Tim Kiley and Deputy Chief Kiley, and that was, another example. Like I talk about, I had some exceptional leaders in the military, and Chief Kiley, I rate him right up there. I
say Chief Kiley is dope.
He is an exceptional human being. He's an exceptional leader. He's an exceptional fireman. A lot said about Billy when Billy was Billy, and everybody knows. We all know Billy and,
Right.
and how he was, and
Passion.
passion, just incredible passion. But everybody felt comfortable when he was in front of a building.
Right.
Everybody felt good. It was
Right.
like shit could be hitting the fan, and you heard Billy's voice on the radio, and you just felt good.
Right.
And Billy obviously retired and left. And I think it's very, very safe to say when you hear Chief Kiley's voice in front of a radio, you hear him, going in, things like that. I think it just gives you that sense of calm of like, all right, we're getting our shit kicked right now, but Chief Kiley's here. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it does make things feel a lot easier.
There's not many chiefs on the job still, like Kiley and others that we've mentioned in the past, that kind of like give you that sense of comfort. Like, oh, okay.
Well, I think it's just
Like, I
think
wanna
for
run
them,
through
it's just-
a wall
I think
for these
I think
guys.
for them, I think it's just a sixth sense. I mean, I think our chief officer structure, is very good. I think we have very good chief officers. I think I look up to each and every one of them.
Yeah.
Maybe except one. But I think you all know that story. I think you all know that story. But I think we do have exceptional chiefs, for our department. I
Right.
think
The little guys.
I think when it comes, somebody like a Chief Kiley, a Chief Gould, I think they just have a sixth sense of
Yeah.
what the fire's going to do, and I think it's so ingrained in them from such a young age that
Right.
I think it's just how they are. It's just who they are as a person.
Well, we always talk about like leadership, and I think a lot has to do with how they inspire as a leader, how they inspire the members to work, right? So like you worked with Kylie hand in hand.
Right. It was
I think like I work a couple times like on overtime with him, and then he was my 34 for a while, and then obviously he's deputy. I see him offhand like that, but like those guys always inspired you to like work hard. I always say like if there's a chief that comes by and something goes wrong and they make you feel guilty about it, like you feel guilty about it, not like in the sense of a boss comes by and it's oh, you did something wrong and you're like, oh fuck, I gotta do, like with someone like that makes you feel like fuck, I have to do better. Like I don't want this guy
and I don't
feeling like
I don't, like I said, like I don't know of any chiefs right now on the job that actively are working,
right,
actively showing up to work every day.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think we have very good structure. So I don't know of any of them that that would make me feel any negative way.
Right.
I have a very high level of respect for
I think what he's saying is
all
if
the
you
chiefs.
fucked up,
Oh yeah, no. Yeah,
it's like a dad.
right.
Right.
That's what
If
I'm
you
saying,
disappointed your dad,
that's what I'm saying is I think
like, damn,
all of the chiefs that are working right now that are showing up to work every day.
You have that feeling.
I have that same feeling where I go to work and I don't want to disappoint them. Like that's what I look at. It doesn't matter what chiefs work and it doesn't matter what chiefs in 34, 33, 32.
Yeah.
39, 38, 31, doesn't matter. I look at all of those chiefs and I go to work every day and I'm like, all right, I don't want to disappoint these guys.
Yeah.
I want to set a good example of myself, so I want them to know that they can depend on me.
I love you, Pete.
So
I don't feel the same.
I
No, but just about everybody that we work with, I feel like it's inspiring to that point that would make us want to obviously excel to our highest lengths.
Right.
So
so I got out at Nines.
Yeah.
Called my first job at Judson Avenue.
Hey.
Judson Avenue, and that was a 2-bagger right off the rip. That was.
Look at you.
Wait, yeah, I know you're talking about your first fire, but I have to talk about the fire. I'll never forget this fire because I was supposed to work at Sixes. I think this is overtime that we both ended up working. I was supposed to work at Sixes. Pete was hired before me.
Oh, the Dickerman Street job. I never know.
You already know.
that's the frozen cat.
Frozen hydrant. Yeah.
So I was going to say, I was originally sent to Sixes. Pete was hired before me. Pete got Sixes, and I was bumped to Emergency 2.
Oh.
We had 2 fires that night.
Nice.
We had one, I forget where, somewhere in AIDS. It was a small job. Like maybe a kitchen job. It doesn't matter. I was E2. I did zero.
You
got
to stand by and look.
I did nothing. They got. I think they got a picture of me just standing outside, just doing nothing.
I think being on the unit
but then,
when you catch a job is the worst.
Right. But then we got Dickerman, and I'll never forget because you were riding where I was going to eventually. I was supposed to ride, and you got a frozen hydrant, and I was thinking
buried. I had to dig it out.
That
sucked. That was one of the worst nights of my life.
2 Pound had the GoPro on.
Yeah, tried to help me out, and he was like, "Sorry, dude, you're fucked."
But I was thinking at that point, I was like,
So
God.
it's actually funny because I pulled the audio for that, and
Oh, did you?
oh yeah, I pulled the audio for that. I used to be a big audio buff. I download all the audio. So I pulled the audio from that, and like my whole life I want to be a New Haven, fireman, right? And I'm there. Hydrant's frozen. I had to dig it out. I mean, we pulled up. You could see the flames down the street, and they're like, "Pete, hydrant's right there." And I look out. I'm like, "Where?" And they're like, "No, right there. It's buried." So Robbie Yates was driving Sixes that night. Jumped out. Him and I are starting digging it out.
Black Cloud.
And layaway and
Holy crap.
and the thing's just done, man. Anti-vandal, the magnet was frozen. It was just they ended up having to take a blowtorch to it to
warm it up
to get it to drop.
I'll never forget. We were responding on the way.
And that would have been you.
Pete, that would have been me.
You died
and I can only imagine how I would have responded. At least Pete had some experience on the job. You know what I mean? If I would have came across a frozen hydrant, I don't even know how I would have reacted. Yeah. But my man came over the radio and was like, "Chief, was it 6 hydrant?" I don't know exactly the audio, but basically it was like
that was Chief Gould.
Yeah,
and he's
like, "We got a frozen hydrant,
34 engine 6 hydrant. What's the problem down there?" And it's like, so here I am, everything I've worked for. I'm about to make my first radio transmission in the city of Haven. And I get on a radio and I'm like, that hydrant just stuttered like you wouldn't believe. And that was it. That was
Nice.
That was,
Listen,
What a
that was
what a
that was
debut on
and that was
radio.
well, that was
the worst
that was.
night of- that was one of the worst nights of my life.
I want to say that fire was
That was-
crazy.
yeah,
we,
that was-
we,
those
a
were the
ton
worst
of things ended up happening at that fire, but I'll never forget that. Like
Yeah.
me and Pete were somehow connected
Yep.
to that fire, and just because he experienced that hydrant, I was like,
He took the heat for you.
thank God I worked
Thank
E2.
the Lord.
Thank God I worked E2. We had 2 fires. We had a transport a couple people, and then I ended up doing like a maternity call. We gave birth.
That's
to-
beautiful.
to a child.
That's a
Yeah,
beautiful
it,
thing.
it did end on at least on a nice note. But okay, so we spoke a lot about fire service here.
Yeah.
I was gonna say we could. It seems like we could talk about that forever.
Forever.
We
But
talked about tradition.
We're in this lovely abode here, right? Pete, one of the things that we try to focus on in this podcast is at least giving guys time, especially when they do stuff outside of a firefighter, right? Like we try to give them their props when it's just not. Oh, excuse me, when they're doing things outside of being a firefighter. So,
I could say it's very interesting that our slogan, our motto is not a podcast about firefighters,
Yeah.
We just
It's
continue to.
But we-
prove-
but a
all we talk
podcast
about
with
is-
firefighters. But the
Oh,
last,
it's almost
You're-
satirical. It's satire at this point.
but the last 2 episodes, I think we do a decent job when it's just 3 of us.
Yeah.
The last 2 episodes, we really talked about firefighting.
well, we have
'Cause we
guests
have
that are
Yeah, which is-
firefighters.
which is-
You know what I mean?
You know, outside of my wife and my kids, my whole job, the job's my whole life. You
Right.
know, it's
Which is
Case
But
in
see,
point.
but that's the point of this podcast, right? We're more than just firefighters, and today we have you on. Please let us know, or please tell the audience watching today, what else are you doing? You're not just Pete Callan, the firefighter, right?
So I started this little thing about 10 years ago. It's actually 10 years ago this month.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Called Ragtop Fire Helmets and Restoration LLC. So as everything and
Oh, there's an
Oh,
applause.
hey.
Oh wow.
Over there. Look at that.
Oh, look at that.
all things fire
Oh.
service for me just fall right back to Billy Gould. So I get my balls broken on enough, but I don't care. Billy's he's a mentor and a very inspiring person in my life, and
Right.
I'm proud to be his friend. So he calls me up one day and he's like, "Hey, I heard you fix like fire helmets at the firehouse, Dunbar Hill, the volunteer house." I said, "Oh, I mean, yeah, occasionally, just like plastic stuff here and there." He goes, "I got this leather helmet." He goes, "You think you can fix it?" And I'm like, he goes, "The chief pulled it offline, said it needs repair." I said, sure. I had no fucking idea what I was doing. None.
Wait, so you
I
just
had
said yes,
no
like,
clue.
like
That's
yeah,
me,
sure,
man.
I could do it.
That is my mentality. I will tell you, yep, I can do it, and then I will go figure out how to do it. Like that's
YouTube.
that's my thing. You know, it's really before, before YouTube.
You're
was
telling me
big, so.
this place that we're in
Came off
started
a whim.
off of you just being
bluff.
like,
Right.
yeah, sure, I could do
Nice.
that.
So
That's how you do it.
Right. So he drops off the helmet. I did as much research as I could. I found out, like, all right, I need 2-part epoxy. I need, 1 shot, oil-based enamel paint, things like that. I made this, like, makeshift little shop in my basement. I fixed the helmet. And, just gave back to him. And I was like, here you go.
Right.
He was like, awesome. Started wearing his helmet again. I actually have a picture of it at a job in the hill. So I actually got to frame it and put it up here. And so then next thing you know, guy calls me, Mike Blashley.
Oh, yeah.
Calls me and he goes,
I heard you fix so and so's.
I heard you fix fire helmets. I said, I guess so. So Mike had the same problem. He needed his helmet fixed, and then a guy by the name of Jimmy Kelly called me, and then it just steamrolled because then Billy knows a ton of people, and so his friend from Hartford called me, and then and then his friend from Boston called me, and then his friend from New York City called me, and then it just
Finally said maybe I should get paid.
right. So I'm like, all right. So now I'm getting to the point where I have like some helmets in my shop, and I'm doing repairs, and I'm fixing them, and I'm repainting, and I'm literally taking a paintbrush you buy at Home Depot and 1-shot sign paint, which is it's when you're in the world of paints, it's a very thick paint, and I'm brush painting helmets.
Wow.
With a brush. So I did Jimmy Kelly's helmet, and Jimmy Kelly, retired off her job.
Yeah.
he was a tremendous fireman, and he just calls me up and he's like, "Hey, dude, how do you paint your helmets?" And I'm like, "Oh, I paint them with a paintbrush." He goes, "Did you ever think about painting them HVLP?" And I'm like, "HVLP?" I'm like, "No, I don't even know what that is. What is that?" He goes, "Look, I painted furniture for 30 years." He goes, "You could spray and get a much nicer finish." I'll never, ever, ever forget this, because I don't think you really ever forget times in life where people you do not know, make an investment in you. This is one of those times with what Jimmy did. He goes, "All right." He goes, "What's your schedule?" We decided on a day. He goes, "I'll be at your house on Thursday at 4:00.
Nice.
I'm gonna teach you how to paint." I said, "Okay, what do I need?" He goes, "Nothing." So he shows up at Thursday or whatever, 4:00. He's got a little air compressor. He's got a little HVLP gun, and he teaches me how to load the paint, spray the paint, how HVLP works, and we start spraying fire helmets. Literally in my basement, we just start spraying fire helmets. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is so much easier." So I, at the point, I was young. I was 26 years old. I said 26, 27, somewhere's around there, 26, 27. And he goes, "Look," he goes, "I'm going to leave this stuff here for you. When you're done using it and you can make enough money and pay me back, just give me the stuff back."
Wow.
And I was floored. I was like, I don't even know this guy.
Right.
I've only met him a handful of times before, and he made this investment, into me just because I don't know why.
Well, think about the
this was off, like,
right,
made, you know
right.
what I mean?
So
this was off you doing his helmet, right?
Right.
Like redoing his helmet.
Correct. I did his helmet, and he looked at the finish and was like, "You could do this better."
Right.
So then I started doing
What an
HVLP.
eye.
I started doing HVLP painting, and that's really, at that time, I was one of the only companies out there that was doing HVLP painting.
And that's the current standard you guys
Yeah. Oh yeah.
do
Yeah,
now?
yeah. I have like an 800 square foot paint shop in the back there.
Yeah, right.
That is it's the same way you paint a car. What we do is very, very similar to
Car detail.
car painting. Auto body repair, things like that.
Yeah.
And so I just kept at it, and I was actually in Coronado Air Station, San Diego, California, doing my hazmat tech, and I was building a website, like, in my hotel room. And I was like, told my wife, I said, "Look, this thing's going. I'm gonna see where it goes." She was like, "Whatever." She goes, "Just let me know what you need. I'm along for the ride." She's always been so supportive of me. And so then it turned into that, and then I ran out of my basement for 5 or 6 years. We bought a house, and she was like, "No fucking way are you spraying helmets in our new house.
Wow.
Not happening. Find a shop."
Wow.
So my uncle, who again is I'm very, very fortunate to have a lot of people that have invested in me. I'm just very lucky. I don't know what it is. And my uncle is my best friend, one of my biggest mentors, and just an amazing business guy. He had some space. He goes, "Look, clean it up. It's yours. Run it. And whatever you need help with, let me know." And so I converted this little second floor mezzanine in Woodbridge, and created this little shop. You've been there. Created this little shop, and so I started getting busy, and I was like, "Shoot, I need some help." So I put an ad out on Facebook, and the whole time I was in the academy, everybody, like Chief Kiley and those guys, and Mike Farrell, those guys that were there, came down as adjuncts, stuff like that. They were like you're a little mini Mike Persico. I'm like, "Mini Mike Persico?" I'm like, they're like, "Don't worry about it. It's a compliment. Don't worry about it. But you're just like, you are a mini Mike Persico." So I'm like, I don't know, whatever that means. And so I put an ad out for helmet tech, and I got a Facebook message from Mike Persico. And he was like, "Hey, is this, you serious?" Nobody really ever thought, doing helmets and doing what we do would ever turn into an actual business, like a legitimate business that you could run and make money off of.
And there goes the market.
Right. And so I said to Mike's like, I used to, like, screw around and paint helmets when I was on a job. Like, if somebody got promoted, I'd paint it white, like rattle can stuff. He goes, "But if you're serious, I'd love to come check it out." And Mike's been with me for 7 years now. He's my shop manager. You know,
So he works
Yeah, oh
with you
yeah,
here?
yeah. No, he is.
Wow.
Without Mike, there's no way I'd have my business still. He just is. He is every bit of Ragtop as I am.
Wow.
And he dealt with a lot of the downs. He's dealt with a lot of the ups, but he's dealt with a lot of the downs where he stuck by me and he goes, "No, dude, you know, I'm with you. I see your vision. I see where you're going. Let's do it. I'm okay." You know.
Right.
So does that mean that you're Big Mike Persicle now?
No.
Still
He's
a
OG
little.
Mike. He's
Still a
OG,
little.
Mike.
Still a little.
He's OG.
You know, and obviously we it's gonna be one of our longer episodes, but
Yeah.
I got a brother who's my brother-in-law is a Bridgeport firefighter.
Yep.
And so at his gender reveal, him and my sister's gender reveal, I met a Bridgeport firefighter. You may know. He says, my brother-in-law says, "Oh yeah, my brother's a New Haven firefighter." He goes, "Oh shit, do you know Pete Callan?" So this guy Pat Burleson,
Oh, I know Pat. Yeah.
right? So Pat tells me this story. He says he got caught in a flashover,
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
right? Back of his neck burnt. Everything burnt up. Helmet was, I want to say his grandfather's. Forgive me if I butcher the story. Was like his grandfather's helmet
Yeah,
or something.
it was a family helmet.
It was an heirloom.
I think it was an uncle, but I think it was a family helmet for sure.
It was an heirloom, and he says, this kid. He goes, this kid. I don't even think you maybe probably weren't even on New Haven at this point, right?
No, not at all.
He goes, this kid comes up to me and he goes, let me fix your helmet for you. And he's like, no, no. I don't have I can't pay you at this point. He goes, no. I know this helmet's important to you. Let me fix it for you. He goes, this kid fixes my helmet, like, gets it back to me. He's like, just the way I remember it. And he goes, Pete Callan, you know this kid. I said, I know this kid. I know this guy. I mean, we're grown men at this point, but yeah, I know this kid.
Yeah.
He goes, that guy will forever be, he says brother a lot.
Oh yeah.
That is my brother.
Yeah, Pat's a great guy. He's a great guy.
And then my brother-in-law proceeds to say, bro, I can't get a helmet. His time is like 6-7 months. I'm be waiting. I said, hey, listen, you want your helmet to look nice, you know? Take it to the spot. Take it to the spot. But
Pat was, Pat. I heard what him and Pete Murato had went through, and I reached out to both of them. I was like, hey, look, I understand what you guys went through. I understand it's kind of like an unexpected event. I said, I'm willing to cover the cost for you guys. I don't want any publicity for it. I don't want, nothing. I don't want anything for it. I just want to make sure if you guys want your helmets fixed, it's on me. Just let me know what I can do for you.
and that, my friend, is why you win.
I just did the right thing. That's all.
right. But it left a mark.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
That kind of stuff leaves a mark.
So comparatively so, right? Because I mean, this is the first, and obviously I'm newer into this profession, but
Yep.
this is like the first I hear of some kind of like job like this.
Right. So
how unique are you to our job?
What makes Ragtop unique is there's a lot of guys out there, okay, that do helmet restorations, refurbs, and do stuff. And they all there's a lot of them that put out really good quality work, and there's a lot of guys that are just doing really, really great things for the fire service and the helmet industry wise. I worked with Capital City Fire Helmets out of Hartford for a long time. Ash Shapiro, he's on TAC up there. Him and I, basically kind of built our businesses together. And he's done a lot of really fantastic things for the retro end of fire helmets and just fire helmet restoration and sales, just period, right? There's a lot of other shops out there. And there's some really, there's some guys they're really big names. They've been around for a while. They're big names. And I respect everything that they do. As far as I know, I could be wrong on this. As far as I know, we're the only shop that has a commercial facility. Most of the guys that are doing helmets are kind of one-man operations, and they work out of their house, they work out of their basement, they work out of a shed in the backyard, or
Right.
convert a garage or something like that, and that's just what they do. And that and that's I respect all those guys. I respect them all, and I think what they do is great, and I do my thing.
Right.
And so over the course of 10 years, I've grown it to now. We went from a 500 square foot basement to a 800 square foot mezzanine second floor shop, and now this space is 3,200 square feet.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
gonna say this is exponentially larger than both.
Yeah, And we got our showroom, we got our lounge. I have an office. There's a plumbing pipe. My shitter pipe for my toilet is right next to my desk. But,
Nice.
That's not.
one day maybe I'll get an office with no shitter pipe in it. And I have
It legit
just-
is too.
an incredible staff. I can't overstate that enough. A year ago when we came here is when we really exploded and we really got big, and I had quantity of people working for me. And 2021 was a lesson in quality over quantity. So 2020 was a very, very challenging year for us, where
Yeah, it was.
in business you make mistakes and you encounter challenges, and sometimes you make the right decisions, sometimes you make the wrong decisions, sometimes that decision is made for you and it's out of your control. And that's what managing people is and managing a business is. So 2021 was that year, but 2021 was also the year that brought me the staff I have now. And you could give me 25 people of what I had previously, and I would put the 11 of what I have now up against anybody any day of the week. I have my business manager, my overall business manager is Jill Molinari, and she's a godsend. She is here 5 days a week. Our firehouse schedule is tough. It is very tough to own a business
Right.
that operates Monday through Friday when you're in the firehouse. And you can be in the firehouse Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you got Thursday and Friday off. And then, but Thursday you got a doctor's appointment, so you got kids
So
got
you
something
got
going on.
Friday.
So
Right.
now you're out. So you're only in the shop 1 day a week. So
Right.
she is that. Her and Mike Persico are that steady hand, of the shop, and they make sure the shop runs day to day and nothing gets missed. And I'm very, very lucky to have them. And we have some new additions to the shop, some new employees that we recently brought on. I got 3 mics here now. So it gets confusing at times, but they're all
Mike.
fantastic. I lost Dan. Dan's in the fire academy now. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I get less headaches with Dan not around. No. Dan is like Mike, and he stuck with me through the tough times, and really was dedicated to me and the mission.
Right.
And my staff now, like I said, is Robbie, Chelsea, Dominique, Mike,
And Mike.
Mike.
and I'm trying to think, and Jill are they're just awesome people.
And it
Very lucky
it
to
was
have
you and your staff that was also responsible for putting together the Rico shirts, the memorial shirts.
Oh, right, correct. Yeah, we did do we did the fundraiser for the Ricardo Torres Line of Duty Death Memorial T-shirts.
Right. So, obviously you're in the business of helmets, but what led you to, at least leading the charge on those memorial shirts?
I think after a traumatic event like that, I think everybody just wants to help.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to, his wife and kids and his family, and I'm really at a loss for words to really what to say. Just other than that, like I think about him and them every day, and I'm really just, my heart's broken. That's a broken heart that I'll never repair. But we have a job to do, and we have to go to work, and we honor that. We honor Rico by going to work every day and continuing doing what we do.
Absolutely.
So, when that happened, I actually worked with him that day. So I woke up that morning and just was crushed. So I wanted to help. I wanted to do what I could, and I didn't know what to do. And so with Ragtop, we have an apparel company. We sell our own apparel, and we have printers and designers and everything like that. so I just kind of let it out, like, hey, look, however I can help with the services that I have, I'm available. Just say the word and I'll get it done. And some calls were made and some decisions were made, and they said, all right, Pete, we're going to send you a design, and you just got to make it happen. And my staff, credit to them, all the employees that I had there, we just basically shut the shop down and just made it happen. And everything for that week and that month was so busy, and we made it happen. And it was just our way of helping, because so many people want to help, and there's in that situation there's not a lot that you can do,
Right.
except just pray and do what you can, in that respect. But I had resources, and I had staff, and I had a shipping department, and I had a web designer, and I had all these resources, and I just said, you know what, guys, we're going to slow things down a little bit, and we're going to take this, and we're just going to get it done. This is important to the family. It's important to his kids. Let's just make it happen.
Right.
And so we were able to do that. And coming up on the year anniversary, we're going to transfer everything back over to Sixes. Let Sixes run it. Let those guys run it. But I wanted those guys to be able to grieve properly, and to be able to do what they needed to do without having to worry about getting T-shirts or printing T-shirts or things like that, to raise money. I wanted them to be able to do what they needed to do.
Right.
Right.
And when they were ready, they would let me know when they wanted to do.
Well, listen, I appreciate, and I want to make sure we acknowledge, you and your business coming together to be able to pull something like that off.
Right.
We know it's not easy, especially, the timing of everything. I feel like, it's probably tough on your business to not only allocate resources for your own business, but to also allocate resources towards this memorial fund. So I really want to, acknowledge all the efforts that you guys took to take care of really us, the family. Obviously, you took care of the family, but you took all of us. Took care
Brotherhood
of
in every sense of the word.
Right.
You know what it goes back to? Tradition.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Funny how
We
circle
take care
back.
of our own.
It's what you do. It was the right thing to do, and it was what we do, and it needed to happen, and it happened.
Right.
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 And we got it done. And
Appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely.
And
So
hope
now,
it's full circle.
Rico's family, and they and his kids will always have a home at the shop. For anything, for anything that they need, for anything, and
Absolutely.
it's just, who am I? I'm just a peanuts guy, but we're here,
Right.
So,
But speaking of this shop that you have here, right? You work on so many pieces. What would you consider one of your most valued, or at least storied pieces that you've worked in, or at least received into the shop? I know you have quite a collection. We have a little bit of a collection behind us, and some guys,
I think-
maybe you can't see around us, but
it's really hard to put a pinpoint on one thing.
Right.
I have my collections, and I have my stuff that I collect, and I have things that mean to me. I go back to kind of what we started out doing, and we started out fixing and repairing helmets, and that's the bones of the company. That's our mission. And
Butter.
I'd say probably the one thing I look at the most is getting the helmets that are family heirlooms, or we're not even doing repair work, we're doing preservation work.
right.
For instance, we got a helmet in from a guy by the name Mike Gordon. He's a firefighter in New York City, and he brought us his grandfather's helmet from the war years, and there's really not much left of it. I mean, half of it is missing.
Huh.
And he goes, look, I'm not going to restore it, but I want to preserve it. How do we do? So we have a mixture that we use that preserves the helmet, the leather, from deteriorating past the point of where it is.
Wow.
So we did the preservation work to it. I got it mounted on a very nice piece of red oak, stained, finished. Got a nice brass plaque made, and now it's going to hang in his house for that.
So in
time
essence,
period.
you're a historian too.
That's technically,
I mean,
yeah.
My heart-
I mean, you do have
I'm
some
a history.
This is what you are.
I'm a history buff.
This is partially a museum.
But maybe one day. I have my little corner.
Could
I'm a
be.
junk collector, so if you talk to Jill or Mike or Mike, or anybody, Dan in the shop, they'll
They're
tell
like,
you, like,
he's a hoarder.
I'm
He has
always
a
bringing
bunch of
something
things.
in. I'm always dragging something in. I got a British cash register from the 1800s over there in the corner.
One person, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
I'm eclectic. I have a fetish for mid-century modern furniture. As you can tell, these are all very specific pieces.
I like
from
it.
specific
Yeah.
designers, things like
I like
that.
it.
So
It's a dope environment.
I'm an
It's very
eclectic
comfortable.
nerd.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
So transitioning.
So, every podcast we always ask now we're always asking our guests, but we always talk about, the one moment in
We had
time in
two
your career.
guests.
Yeah, I know. We always ask every
Always
guest.
ask all our guests.
Listen, it doesn't matter. Listen, you're part of the family now. You're part of the Watch.
Right. All right.
So
What do you got? What do you got?
every time we record a podcast, we always talk about our pleas and thank yous. And to anyone who's not familiar, that's just a segment, from a first responder, happens to be a New Haven firefighter with us, but happens to be a first responder that describes or explains something that maybe the layman or someone who is not familiar with the job would understand. So, Pete, what would your please and thank you be for the public and our listeners?
Well, I've been thinking about this because because you guys kind of ran me through before, like, what was going to happen. So, I guess the advice I would have to the public is if your significant other calls you and says, I've been in an accident on the highway, and you drive there, don't park on the opposite side of the highway and dart across oncoming traffic to get there.
That sounds like
There's
a
a
great
very
idea.
good chance you might get waffled.
Yeah.
Not saying that has happened recently, but that would be nice.
So please don't cross incoming traffic
Yes.
for an accident.
Yes.
Thank you.
When she's standing there and she's okay.
I feel like that's a very specific thing.
Very
You being on a
specific
rescue.
details.
Not at all. I just
Just came up.
I mean,
to
just
me.
in case.
I would listen. I would say if we weren't so
Saw it
deep
on
into this,
Law and Order episode one time.
yeah, that's probably where.
Wife's a big
If we weren't so deep into this podcast right now, we could really unpack.
Oh yeah.
We could really
Listen,
unpack
honestly,
all that.
I've had calls just
But
like
this is
that.
just as a
Even just like
hypothetical.
on normal streets.
This is just a hypothetical.
Yeah, people would hypothetically
It's never happened to
run
us before.
across. Absolutely not. Every citizen is perfect. But
We saw it
In
on
the
an episode of
off-chance.
Chicago Fire once.
it's
Yep,
that
that was
damn
it.
Chicago fire
That was the
that
one.
comes up with these crazy scenarios.
Crazy scenarios.
Yeah.
So if you watch Chicago Fire, please
Please.
don't run across the highway
Yeah.
and get waffled.
Yeah. It's
Thank you.
dangerous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, fellas, this has been probably a longer episode that we usually record.
Well, the problem is I like to talk, and it's hard to get me to shut up. You
So
can ask
good.
my wife about that.
Don't worry, Pete. You're in good company.
It's all good.
Listen, what the viewers don't understand is that I'm about to cry because my bladder is about to explode.
Explode.
Sweet.
And I almost asked for
So those
a break.
IPAs, huh?
Yeah,
You're a father, so it would have been weird. It'd been like, guys, can I get a potty? break?
excuse me, can we pause
Can we
real
break
quick?
for potty? For potty? Can we break for potty, please?
Yeah, I'm not quite.
Oh, you're a dad.
potty
Yeah,
trained,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, right.
Anyways, guys, it's been a successful episode 13.
This is 11 to the 3rd.
11 to the 3rd.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Very interesting choice of words there. Anyways, I like.
See what I did there?
I did.
That was great.
I want to thank our special guest today, Pete Callan, for not only joining us or inviting us into his lovely abode, his shop, where he runs his business. But thank you for joining us today and sharing your experiences.
Can we give him proper applause this time?
Could we?
Wait,
Yeah, please.
I don't know. Can we?
And thank you. My man Pete. Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, thank you for doing what you guys do with your podcast and mental health awareness and things like that. That's it's really a critical part of our job. I know we didn't touch on it, but I've been talking for probably 2 hours now. So.
No, it's good. It's good.
but,
Sometimes we need a reprieve from that.
Right.
Yeah.
So
We need to.
keep doing the good work.
Decompress.
And thank you for having me. It was really an honor to be invited on here and join you guys. And
I appreciate
Coming,
that.
brother.
for a little bit.
Go
Thank
check
you.
them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
Ragtop
you.
Industries.
I was gonna say, so
LLC.
Pete, could you plug your business, whether it's social media or whatever avenues you have?
If
for your business?
you're on social media, you can just search Ragtop Industries. You'll find us on all Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I have not gotten into the TikTok.
You need to get into TikTok.
I'm not there yet.
Pete, I'm
my
with you,
social
Pete.
media
I'm with you,
manager.
You need to get there.
Oh, Joe, I think I forgot to talk. I think I forgot Joe's name. When you're
Oh,
under,
no.
when you're under the lights, man.
Joe.
Joe's like the silent warrior,
Joe.
man. He's the social media guy. I can't do that stuff. I can't do social media, and so Joe does, and he is incredible.
Thanks,
I wanna give Joe. a
Thank you,
shout
Joe.
out. But me and Joe have a difference of opinion on TikTok, and we'll get there one day.
And if
One day. But,
Pete reaches out to you and he tries to promote some type of
Bitcoin. I made a lot of money on Bitcoin. Do not. That's my personal Instagram page. I have not made any money on Bitcoin. I actually don't do any of that.
he's been hacked.
My Instagram.
You've been got, huh?
Just
I
ignore
got
that.
But
Just
so
ignore it.
if you look up Ragtop Industries on social media, you'll find us. And then you can just visit ragtopfire.com.
Word up.
You'll find our website there.
All right, guys, please visit Ragtop Industries. Thank you for joining us for another special podcast today on The Watch Booth. You can find us on YouTube. Subscribe, like the video, hit the notification bell. Boom.
And if you stay to the end, you're the real MVP.
All right, thank you guys. It's been another successful episode.
The kid's got to pee, man.
I
You
do.
just,
I'm
like,
struggling
you just-
here.
Peace.
Noises.
Peace out.
Noises.
Peace out.
Me and my dogs on the front line. Me and my dogs on the front line. Be at your door when it's crunch time. Look, we at your door when it's crunch time. Risking it all to ease your mind. This all to ease your mind. This ain't a game, this is wartime. Look, homie, this wartime, yeah.